I do want to mention a caveat, which I mentioned last time as well, is that I'm going to be showing here what is concept art. So this is not final art for the game. We are using, for this pre-production for part 2 and 3, we're using AI generated images to speed up and give us ideas for the pre-production. And then when we actually get down to building this part 3, then we're going to do the final art in ASCII art, right? So just to be clear about that. Um, Another caveat is that the exact structure of the game in part 3 is less clear than what it is for part 2. So on the part 2 call, I was more specific about like some of the characters and locations and things, and I'm going to try to get more specific like that. But there's a lot more uncertainty with part 3, which I think is normal because it comes later. We're going to produce part 2 first, and that's going to give us a lot of time where we can still change things in part 3. So I think it makes sense to leave a few things undecided or open in part 3 because we're kind of bundling the pre-production for both of them together because that's more economical for us, saves us some money and speeds things up actually. Um, and also it kind of helps us make story decisions where we're like, okay, we want this to happen in part 3, so we kind of have a high level plan of what part 3 is going to be, so that when we build part 2, we can have a more coherent story throughout parts 1, 2, and 3. Okay. And another detail that I mentioned in the last call is that we're actually overflowing with ideas so much that we're already thinking about doing part 4. And if the production for parts 2 and 3 succeed and are, successful in all the ways that we're hoping, then we'll just keep going. We'll do more. Sound good? Um, Now, what's important? One of the bits that's really important here on part 3 is a gameplay aspect that I'm going to be discussing soon, which I'm really excited about. Some gameplay changes we're going to do to the game for part 3. I think it's super cool and it's going to be really fun, and I think you all are going to be really excited for. So let's get down to business. All right. So going down. Last time in part 2, we were in Acropolis. This is where we left off, and I'm not going to spoil kind of how part 2 ends. What's the spoiler for the ending of part 2. I'm going to leave that hidden for now. But let's say that you've completed your story, right? In part 2, you've helped Leos and you explored the Cloud City, etc. Right? You've reached your goals in Acropolis. And what's next? Well, this time you're going down to the lowest depths of the world, to the Underworld. And when we're approaching this final chapter of the adventure, let's actually take a step back and look at how it all started. So powering the world is a giant chi crystal. It's known as the World Fountain. When the Dark World was young, colorful threads of power would shoot out of the world. So you had the cyan, the yellow, the green, the blue, and the red. Those are the same colors as the enchantments in the game, are the colors of power in the world. But the world gained consciousness and it became scared and confused. So it tried to remove the strands. Now, the cyan and the yellow strands were weak, and the world was able to pull them off. The other three strands were strong, and it couldn't remove them. Um, but the red and the blue strands had a voice of their own and a power of their own, and they decided to separate from the world crystal. And the only strand that remained attached to the world crystal was the green strand, and that is nowadays known as the Stream of the Silent, which is what was explored in part 2. So you wake up from this trance. You're learning about the genesis of the world. You wake up from a trance and you see a red stone head. You're in the underworld, and this red person is holding a sword. Come with me, he says. So he gets you up, gets you on your feet, and signals for you to follow him. This is Router, formerly known as the wielder of the torch, but he no longer has the torch, the frost torch, that is. Parenthesis, Nagaraja has the frost torch, and there's going to be a quest in part 3 where you recover the frost torch and do some things with it, which I think are going to be fun. But let's not get sidetracked. So Router takes you to his boat. He leads you to a lake, and on this lake, there's a small boat that's anchored to the edge. And this is Router's home. Um, he invites you inside, and inside there is a small animal, a lemur type, monkey type animal. And Router explains to you his mission. What he's trying to do is he's trying to collect these three creatures, these three beasts that he will then use to create Hurricane, a fire giant. And with Hurricane, he will confront the Dark One. So this is his goal, and he asks you to help him. Help him not only collect the creatures, traverse the dark underworld, the the Farlands and everything, and then to confront the Dark One. Now, in part 3, you're given choices. You're going to help Router make decisions as well. So, at several points in the story of part 3, you can make story changing decisions um, that you can only do once. Now, we're taking this very carefully into consideration so that we design it in a way that um, doesn't block you out, right, from certain things. So we're being careful with that, but we do want to have that definitive decision as part of part 3 and in a few different spots. So we're going to see exactly how we do that. And these decisions are what's going to guide Router, not only yourself. Now, when I mentioned the gameplay changes, there is a really cool mechanic here. Every location, every regular location, every boss fight is going to be you and Router side by side. So this is a co-op with a CPU. Is the entire part 3. And when you're back at the houseboat, which is kind of like your base in the Dark World, you have a user interface choice here in the houseboat, which is to equip something onto Router's offhand. So you can give Router a shield, a hammer, a sword, a wand, any basic item that is one-handed. So you can't give him lost items, and you can't give him, so for example, talisman or something like that. But you can give him a shield, a sword. So depending on what location you and Router are going to go, you can choose an item to give to him so that he's more powerful and more adequately protected against that location. Sounds fun, right? Well, the idea doesn't stop there, because after you complete the main storyline and you're exploring the underworld in the higher difficulty location, so cyan, yellow, red, green, blue, all the difficulties that we're going to be releasing uh, for parts 2 and 3, we're going to be releasing difficulties all the way up to red. No coincidence, by the way. So Router is red, and red difficulty is being introduced at the end. After we complete development of part 3, then we're going to drop the red difficulty. Well, anyway, like I was saying, when you play higher difficulty locations, instead of Router being your co-op buddy, it's going to be another player. Okay. So you're going to choose another player from the Stone Story community to be your partner in these co-op challenges in part 2. Okay. In part 3, I mean. Sound good? Exactly how we do that. So we have a couple of different ideas we can discuss later in the Q&A, but there's lots of different ways that we can implement that. And so, we don't have to exactly decide right now. It's still very early, but we have decided, we do want that. we do want that system. I think it's going to be really cool, really fun. So you and Router are now equipped, acquainted. You've met his pet lemur. Time to venture into the underworld. So the first area you're going to go to is the Abyssal Forges. Okay. This is a hellscape and the home of the Abyssal Forge Masters. They're not originally from this world. They were exiled from the celestial plane, so from their original world. And they were exiled due to their uncompromising belief in the chaos of creation. So they are builders, they're crafters. They're obsessive crafters. They build imps, hounds, other beasts that fill up this area. Now, the reason you came here is that Router wants to locate his second specimen for use in creating the fire giant Hurricane. Give me a moment before we move on. Okay, so I do want to ask: is everything okay? Is the call all right?
Yeah, sound quality's
Yeah,
good, everything sounds good.
yeah, you can see and hear everything fine.
Yep.
Okay, great. I'll just keep going then. All right. So you're in the Abyssal Forges. Um, well, there's not only monsters, but there's characters that you can meet in this area as well. So you're gonna meet Kubrov, the Beast Molder. This is one of the crafters, one of the Forge Masters. He's the same species as Ula. All right, so Ula is originally from this area, from the Abyss, and um, so so Kubrov, he's obsessed with crafting and also improving his craftsmanship. That is his reason for existing. And he's not going to be very happy that you're intruding because he's busy. He has his project and his things that he's working on. So he's not very happy with you, um, you know, messing up his area. But maybe you have something that he wants, right? So is Kubrov a friend or is he a foe? In the Abyssal Forges, you're going to discover new ways to craft. We've already discussed, and there's like some threads in the game dev channel. So potions, scrolls, and eggs are some of the new elements that are going to be introduced. Not only with part three, but also the eggs are going to appear already now in part one. We're going to start dropping the eggs pretty soon in one of the upcoming updates. But the potions and the scrolls are something that are going to come in part three, and then we'll develop further the eggs as well in parts two and three. So there are new crafting systems in part two that we're going to drop first. So those are focused on the gemstones. But here we're going to focus on potions and scrolls, and we're introducing the emerald egg, which is pictured here, but we have the sapphire egg and the ruby eggs as well. So those are higher difficulty drops. Um, the eggs are created by the Abyssal Forge Masters themselves, and the eggs inside of them, the purpose of the egg is to preserve something that's inside, and they have some kind of high quality or rare crafting material inside of the egg. So they're pretty important finds that'll help you progress. You'll earn these mostly at higher difficulty locations, so green difficulty and above will drop the eggs. Basically, the emerald ones in the green difficulty, the sapphire ones in blue, and then the ruby ones in red difficulty. Essentially, right? That's why they are colored that way. And you'll certainly need them in order to climb higher in the difficulties. You're going to need to find these eggs and use their contents in crafting. Next up, Router's project still needs one more specimen, one more creature. His third creature is going to be found in the Fairy Kingdom. So he guides you to the Fairy Kingdom, and he's not very happy. I mean, he doesn't want to go there because he doesn't like the fairies very much. He says that especially at these last few moons, the fairies have been very loud, and that's because Fae Fest is coming up. Fae Fest is approaching. That's an important party, important ritual in fairy culture. It's part of their yearly culture, yearly ritual, where they make a offering to the world fountain. So the fairy kingdom is close to the very, basically nearby, near the world fountain, which is the giant crystal. We're gonna get there soon. So they're preparing for the festival. They're setting up the music. They're setting up the lights and everything, right? So, a character in the fairy kingdom is Queen Zadiva. She's the leader of the fairy folk, and she is an expert musician. You see, in the fairy kingdom, the leader is chosen based on their skill in music. So, the best musician is the boss in the fairy kingdom. She's not very happy to see you because you're intruding on their most important and sacred moment in the year. Are you going to crash her party? Or maybe, there's another way to progress forward. Um, we'll see. Past the fairy kingdom, you get finally to the world fountain. This is at the base of the world, a giant mega crystal that powers the entire world's chi. The chi energy flows out of the crystal, and you can see at the top of the crystal is the stream of the silent forms here. And it's so powerful and consistent that it can hold up Acropolis at the very top of the stream, all the way up in the sky without ever dropping it. So it's a very consistent, very powerful source of energy. Beyond the crystal, things take a turn for the eerie. You come from the party, from the color, from the revelry, and you come into a very dark place. These are the Farlands. So past the crystal or the Farlands, first area, Swamp of the Souls. Here in the swamp, there are these entangled ghasts that lurk above the water. These were once water folk, um, that are stripped of their bodily form and are lost between reality and the ether. This area is originally where Loot Master Hans comes from. So Loot Master Hans was originally so you're going to learn a bit more about his backstory here. He was originally a water folk who went through the procedure of removing his body and became a shadow. Whereas for Hans, the transformation was successful. For a lot of the people who go through that process, it's not successful, and they end up here in the swamp, um, as these lost souls. And in the swamp is Mogzai, the soulmonger. While other waterfolk typically survive on the surface by removing their physical form, Mogzai found another way to adapt to living outside of the water. He traps and collects the lost souls. So he does many different things with them once he traps them. But one of the things he does is he trades them to the Abyssal Forge Masters. The Forge Masters can use them to, power to create new entities. So to evolve them essentially from being a lost soul, give them a body again to return them to form so that they can live as a fire beast or some other shape. Now, speaking of shadow folk and losing physical form, is the face taker. So beyond the swamp, at the edge of the swamp, you encounter a colossal monster. You and Router, that is. Enhanced by the shadow folk. So here in this area live the shadow folk who successfully transformed. Right. So this is really where Hans comes from this area, and they're the caretakers of this entity, the face taker, who um, who they have enhanced with this machinery, and who is the creature who strips the outer layer off of the water folk. So this is a formidable monster. This stands in your way, also in the way of Router. Um, well, let's see. What's next? The Dark One. So to wrap things up, the Dark One, deep within the Farlands. So at this point, you have helped Router construct the Fire Giant, and with the help of the Fire Giant, you've made your way to the Dark One's realm. This is a colossal entity of pure entropy. Everything he touches, he decays. How will you approach this challenge? The Dark One, he's in a struggle himself. He doesn't understand what his purpose is. Uh, he's been in the world since the beginning, but he feels like a failed creation because he doesn't have a purpose. He sees that others have purpose, and he tries to discover what that is. But it's been so long that he's lost at this point. He's kind of created his own realm beyond the dark world, essentially. And how will you approach? How will Router approach? So those decisions that you made along the way, and the decision that you make here when you face the Dark One, is going to determine the outcome of this confrontation. Really love that art, by the way. That's going to be so. Before we move to the next slide, I do want to mention on the process of the art here and the concept art. For example, this shape on the shoulders, right? This shape here with the neckline, and also the ratio of kind of like the neck thickness ratio to the arm are really important aspects of the character design that I am going to translate over into ASCII art when I do the final design. Also, these swirls and how I imagine these swirls moving along, kind of moving, along the surface, and these lines, kind of these particles, right, decaying. So I think this art piece gives me a lot of information, a lot of inspiration to then do the final art. Um, and I don't know if I would have ever found this in any other way than to use the process that we're using right now to create the final art. Also, by the way, I do want to shout out one of the people in the community who created um, the first reference art for us. Let me actually grab that real quick. I'm going to post it in the text chat, which was the initial reference for the Dark One. Here it is, and I don't remember the name of the person at the moment uh, who drew this, but I'm sure like if someone knows, from so they shared this in the. If you're on the call, thanks. Thank you for contributing. Sorry that I don't remember your handle, your Discord handle right now, because there's a lot of people that I talk to every day. But I think your art is super awesome, and it inspires. So it was like the first step in the character design, and yeah, the AI generated one is the second step in that design, and then the final step will be the ASCII art, final art. So really beautiful art by one of our own server members. So, what can you expect in part three? Same quality art, same quality audio, same quality writing. We have the same writer that has been with us since part one, and I do a little bit of the writing as well. But we have someone who does the dialogues and is working with me full time on this pre-production for parts two and three. And so I've been able to hand off a lot of the work of this conceptualization, and we're basically collaborating. But I'm giving him the power, like final decision on some of these story and character and dialogue things. because he's the specialist in that. And I'm a generalist. I do a little bit of everything in game development. I'm not a I'm not a full-time writer, and he is. So I defer the final decisions in writing to him if in case there's a disagreement. So that's the process. And then the same is for audio. So I do have my opinions about audio, but we do have, the audio designer and composer who has the final say on audio. Um, so same quality that you had from part one, maybe even better. Maybe we'll step up the quality a bit more for parts two and three. We'll see how it goes. We'll find out during production what happens there. But yeah, if we add all the content together, we're going to have about 2.5 times the content of parts one, two, and three altogether than what we have right now in the game. So that's kind of what we're aiming for in terms of locations, characters, items, quests, music, all that stuff added together. And I think cinematics as well. So I do have this idea that for part three, I want to do these really epic cinematics. I don't know yet if we're going to be able to afford them. I have said in the past that I don't know if I want to do the production of part three if we can't afford the cinematics. But then I realized, like, you know what, we can maybe add the cinematics later. We can maybe produce part three and then insert the cinematics later, right? So maybe things will just not come in the right order. So we'll see how it goes. This is still a long way away from being, complete. The way I'm envisioning the production is that we'll be working on part two during the next year. So doing part 2024, we will be releasing and iterating green difficulties. So we're going to probably release 4 areas for green first. So we're going to do caves, Deadwood Canyon, Mushroom Forest, and uh, haunted halls first. Then we'll drop that and we'll iterate. We'll fix the problems or anything. We'll do an event for green, and then we'll drop the other four. Um, you know, Boiling Mine, Icy Ridge, Temple, and Rocky Plateau, right? So 4 and 4, we'll split it for green difficulty. That way we can get green out sooner uh, with the level of quality that we're aiming. So we can focus on the first 4, get that out, iterate, and then release the next 4. At the same time, while we're doing that, we're going to be showing some of the enemy designs, boss designs, going through the entire process for part 2. So doing, Acropolis essentially over the next year, so 2024, and probably a little bit into 2025. We'll be doing like quests and things like that for part two. And then in 2025, we are going to begin production of part three, and we'll probably be doing production of part three all the way through to 2026 and beyond. So I think it's safe to say that we'll be working on this game all the way through 2027, probably, is the way it's looking. The way it's shaping out, at least. So we'll have to see how it goes. The plans aren't definite, but we'll see how it goes. And this is all planned as free DLC. We're not going to, so if you own the game on PC on Steam, you'll just get this new content, parts 2 and 3, for free. And if you're on mobile, you'll have access to it for free. But we are going to some of the crafting things, right? Some of the new crafting systems. We're going to have to see how we balance the economy, because there is the free to play aspect on mobile. So we will have to make small adjustments to the economy of the PC versus mobile. But that is related to kind of like the crafting and the higher difficulty levels, right? It's not the story. The storyline should be accessible to everyone, regardless of if you're a spender or not. And to support the development, we're introducing this optional subscription. So, and I have more details about that now. So, um, for the Christmas event that's coming up, so the Christmas event should be live by the 21st or at most 22nd of December. So that's pretty soon. It's coming up. We're going to do our first event with subscription, and it's going to be a redesign. So it is still going to be double loot drop from Icy Ridge. So from Hirimnir, there's a double loot, but there is more, right? So it's a new event system that is going to wrap around the winter event, and it's going to last for about 11 days from Thursday to Sunday. And and with that new event system, there's the subscription. Now, if you want to subscribe now, if you want to support the project right now, you can subscribe to the Discord server. So we do have the Discord server subscription. And anybody who does that will get a free in-game subscription. So when we release the in-game subscription, if you were a Discord subscriber, you'll get a free 1 month in-game. Okay. Um, And what you get with the subscription in game is that you'll get free ads, and so no ads. And the benefits that you get from the ads, so kind of like speeding up craft, get those automatically. So like you press the skip button and it just skips on mobile. That is because the subscription is mobile only. So kind of like we have to kind of design different things for PC and for mobile. So sorry if I'm confusing you if you are a PC player, but most people are mobile players, so what I'm saying applies to, I think, the majority of the player base. Um, yeah. One more thing about the events. So I mentioned the winter one. It's going to kind of start on the 22nd or 21st of December, and it'll end on January 1st. And then January 11th, so back to back, we have Head Over Heels. So we're launching a new quest. Head Over Heels is ready to go. It's just been waiting basically for the new event system, which is almost done now. I'm just testing it. I'm putting the finishing touches on it right now and waiting for some translations on some of the UI, some of the UI text. So the event system's done. We're implementing leaderboards right now. So leaderboards are going to be part of the event system as well. We're going to try to get it in for the 21st, but we might, slip the date. Maybe towards the end of the event, we'll be able to squeeze the leaderboards in if we're late on those, but we're going to try to make it so our deadline is the 21st for the leaderboard system. We're going to try to get it in with the winter event as well. So we'll have all the stuff that we've been planning. So it's going to be back to back winter event, then Head Over Heels event, which introduces a quest. And then after that, we have another event. So it's the Chinese New Year Nagaraja dragon skin for Nagaraja. Will be in February, beginning of February. And we'll see if we can chain a fourth event at the end of that. But we do have content to release. So we have the Towering Shield that's ready to drop as well. We just have to build an event around it. So that's the idea with this new event system, is that we just chain the content together. So if you have the subscription, you just get all the content, all the premium rewards, right, for each of those events. And so after Towering Shield, it would probably be the next quest. So um, we have Blowout. I think Blowout is the name of the quest that comes after, but I'm not sure. So we have 3 more quests that are coming, and then we also have the spring event. So I think towards the end of March or April, we'll do the spring, which is Mushroom Forest. So it's just going to be event, 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 event. Every 3 weeks there will be, every 3 or 4 weeks, right, there will be a new event with new content, basically. That's the plan. This is what we've been building up to, and this is kind of like we've been silent, kind of dry on content for the last few months, because we're kind of building out these systems and kind of getting it all ready for everything to just flow back to back. So stay tuned. That was part three intro and first look. Um, Details about part 2 and the events that are coming up. Now let's move over to the StoneJam. So StoneJam, we already had one video, so we dropped the video. It's if you haven't seen the first video, go to the StoneJam 6 discussion channel, and you can find the first video. But now we're gonna watch the second video. So let me end my screen here. I'm gonna stop streaming, and then I am going to introduce the. I'm gonna see if we can do the activity. It doesn't look like we can do activities here, right? In. Yeah, I don't know that we can do activities here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to watch the video here, and I'll just share my screen, okay? And hopefully that works. Let's see if it works or not. Give me 1 second. Let me find the video. So I've got the video here. Share my screen. I'm going to have to share the whole screen. So Agarak, can you tell me if you guys can see the video?
Yep, you can see it. Waiting on audio.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I don't know if the audio is going to play for the video.
Don't hear anything yet.
But the audio is not that important. It's just the nice little music. But the important thing is the submissions from the community, which were really incredible. We had, I think, 75 total submissions. It was insane to review all the submissions. I haven't even played all of them yet. Like I have given out all the rewards. So this morning I finally finished sending out the last two rewards that were missing, because to give the rewards, I do kind of rely on people um, connecting with me, right, and communicating, so that I can give you the reward for the jam manually, person by person. So it took a long time, but I finally got all the rewards out. So I'm kind of done now. The next thing we have to do is just edit these last couple of videos for the StoneJam, and then some of these get included into the game, right? The best ones get included into the game. So this is one of the quote unquote rewards for participating in the jams, that you get permanently added to the Stone Story distribution. And also we're gonna put that into overdrive with part two. With Acropolis, we're gonna have the Fun Weather Fair, which is where you can submit your creations, your ASCII creations, your mini games, your pets, your hats. We're going to, create break this dependency on me, right? Manually having to include your things. We're going to create a whole content distribution system for ASCII content, so it'll be more like Mario Maker style. And there will be a haberdashery and an adoption center in Acropolis, where you can get the pets, get the hats, you know, so we can streamline the process of people creating in ASCII, creating in not only StoneScript, but I also hope to add a visual programming system with user interface, where you can piece together your scripts, and you can kind of put the design for the hat, without having to code anything in StoneScript, essentially, right? Hopefully we'll get there eventually, but that's the whole vision for like the future, like where we're going with StoneJam. We'll probably still do the StoneJams every year. And this is the sixth year that we did it, and hopefully we can keep that up and do another one next year. So without further ado, let's watch it and let's see what people made for StoneJam 6. All right, this is 2048, one of my favorite games by Artificial Potato. Thanks for that. We got Strong Arms by Caden. Thanks, Caden. Cultist Grab, also from Caden. Egg and Egg Mini by ASCII the Vigor Warrior, with some help from Sven. We got Braggability Meter. This was a crowd favorite by Insult 2.
Woo!
Braggability Meter is really cool. Got Firehead by Electronic. It looks great, small head or big head. We got the Relevant Info by Cactus Hand. It's a user interface thing to help you out. Very nice, Cactus Hand. I'm going to add that one soon. We got Minesweeper. This one's really cool. I could probably use a little visual improvement in the colors here, but it's really fun. It is, Minesweeper by XX and Mindstone Thief. We got Small Santa Hat, which is an improvement on the old Santa Hat. So the improvement comes by Martos. The original script was by Link to the Past, I think. So Nova Swirl by Henry Thompson. Small bear might have helped there. I'm not sure. So Nova Swirl is a modifier for players. We got the timer in the upper left corner here. We have a timer. So by XDBC can help you out. Also by XDBC, we got the witch hat. So it looks pretty cool. So you can look cool with a hat and have a timer. Stone head pet. So we got the character from the quest from the roof overhead. Oh, by Malathor. Sorry, I didn't want to miss the name of the person there. And by Caden, again, by Caden, we got the tank thingy. So yeah, it also has some quips. Thanks, Caden. Under Stone's Naz by Caden. Again, Caden has so many submissions. Yeah, Caden. Crushing it. Also, Stonehead is a stand user by Caden. It's a really cool animation. I wish it wouldn't show this thing. I should remove that or move it to the upper corner or something. Yeah, I mean, you can see like so many submissions, and some people submitted multiple things. It's just so cool. So many mods, so many cosmetics, and if you want to use these, you can add them to your go to the StoneJam submission channel, where you can grab those scripts and you can add them to your Mindstone so you can use them right away, or you just wait for me to include them in the game. But that might take a long time. Might take months, right? Because I do them in batches. I have to test them. I have to see if they have bugs. If they have bugs, I have to ask the person to fix them. So I add these like 3 or 4 at a time when I do a build, right? So because we had 75, it's gonna take months to get all of these into the game, right? So with the next update, we have a few that are going out, and it's just kind of arbitrary. I try to put a mix of different types of things. So like hat, a pet, a mini game, a user interface thing, right? So I try to get a mix of different types of submissions with each update, right? So yeah, thanks everyone. That was awesome. I'm going to stop streaming now, and we're going to move to the Q&A because this is a stage. Let's see, if you want to speak, you can request to speak. I think there's a button at the bottom that you can press. So, okay. Yeah, we got our first Itty Bitty wants to ask a question. We're going to invite Itty Bitty to the stage. What's up, Itty Bitty? You have the microphone.
Hello?
Hey, Itty Bitty.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, let's see. Where's my question?
Come on.
There we go. When
No
will
pressure.
mobile players stop suffering from the lack of content?
I think now in the end of year, right? December 21st, we're going to release an update. It's not a big update. I think the main update with new content is going to come on January 11th. So that's going to be the Head Over Heels drop. And, but yeah, we're going to try to, like I explained, back to back drop content as much as we can. But yeah,
Thank you very much.
winter update. All right, let's get CloudX up here. CloudX, come ready with your question.
Hello.
Hey.
I wanted to ask if there would be like a dating simulator mechanic or like a love interest in the game.
There could be. In fact, if people in the community want to create that, you can. You can use StoneScript to make that. And if, as with many things that have already been created, if it's really good, we can integrate that into the game wholesale. Kind of like how we've done with the ghost pet. We're gonna take Luna's fire pet, the dragon RPG. We're gonna make a quest for that, and we're gonna integrate the dragon pet. So if that's if you would really like to see that, maybe build it and we'll include it. It's not in our plan, so probably not. Like from us, we're not gonna build it. But if you want to do it, I'll support you, and maybe I can give my feedback. And yeah, that sounds more like a community thing. So that would be really awesome to see.
Thank you.
All right, Cloakson, pressed your button. All right, Cloakson Quail, what's up?
Will there be mounts like horses and stuff?
Mounts?
Yeah, like horses, different things.
Oh,
I know
I
you
see
can
what you
code
mean.
that with Stone script, but yeah.
Right. Curiously, mounts were part of the original design of the game. So mounts were supposed to be kind of a crafting and equipment dimension for the game. But I did some market research and I decided to remove mounts because the cost benefit analysis wasn't there. It wasn't worth it. So no, we're not going to do mounts because they mean a pretty big change to the game, pretty substantial change. I mean, maybe part four or something like that will do mounts, but it's not in the plan. We're not planning to add it. Okay, let's get one more person in here. I pressed the button there. Hey, Mush, what's up?
Okay, so my question is, how will you the balance?
Sorry, you're really low. Let me increase your volume. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so how will you approach the balancing for like the levels? Because something I really enjoyed was like it's kind of felt like problem solving with the bosses. Get something good,
Yeah.
you try to do something better. But with the stone after you beat the game, I reached a point where you just get so powerful that if something new were to be released on 1 star,
Right.
how would you get that?
That's a great question. So one of the things that we're doing to improve the balance is that in part two, we're introducing the gemstones. And the gemstones are they're not going to solve that problem, but they're going to help a little bit because there's going to be a difficulty step up with part two and three. And you're going to need the gemstones and you're going to need like new crafting systems that don't exist yet, like the talent tree that we're hoping to add a talent tree as well as part of part two. Remains to be seen, but that's one of the things. So we add new dimensions of power, and that's a way that we can kind of step up the difficulty in part two to make it an even field, because then new players who are coming in, they can get access to those power dimensions at the same time as veteran players like yourself. And so it kind of evens the playing field, but it won't completely solve the problem. So in order to solve the problem completely, the only idea that I've had so far that makes sense is to allow people to jump ahead in the difficulty. So you could play the story mode, let's say in cyan difficulty, right? So you don't have to play the white difficulties. So that's something we could do. We could, for example, give you the first area, and then you can level up the first area in difficulty, and depending on how quickly you level that up, it can unlock the next area already with a higher power level. Does that make sense?
Ooh,
So you
that
can
sounds
kind of
pretty
skip
good.
ahead. So
Could
we'll
I
try
ask
that.
a thing actually?
Okay.
So how will you? Is there a way you could like make the sorting better? Because like as I get all the stuff, all like the staffs and the
Yeah,
enchantments, I feel
I
like it'd
hear
be a
you.
lot more convenient.
Yeah, I hear you. Um, yeah, we have work to do on the sorting, and I think as part of update 4.0, so with green difficulty, we're going to be spending some of our focus on quality of life things which have been neglected. So we will look at sorting. I have a design for filtering, but it just hasn't been implemented yet. So maybe we'll try that first and see if that's enough. And if that's not enough, then we can have a community discussion. I think when we get into green difficulties and we start actually like releasing those, we'll have community calls just like this one, where we will focus the discussion on the quality of life of the late game, and then we can like find solutions, right? I think now is not the time. Now is kind of the time to speculate, but then the actual time to implement is not yet, because we're struggling with like some of the fundamental business side of things with the event system that we're releasing soon with. So once that's out of the way, then we can be like, okay, let's release green, let's release quality of life improvements. So yeah, that is coming. That is coming soon. We have some ideas, but I think we're gonna have to do more community discussions about that.
Okay, thanks. Love your game.
Yeah. Oh, thanks for playing. Mindstone Thief, what's up?
Hey, hello. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
I think I have two questions. The first one is, can you explain more about the monetization model and how they will affect the Steam version?
Uh-huh. Okay, yeah, that's a great question. The way it works, the monetization model, the way it works is that it's a little inspired on Battle Pass design, but it's not really a Battle Pass. It kind of looks like it from a user interface perspective, but it's not really the same. Um, First of all, because the periods are really short, so the events are going to last for 11 days, and
Mhm.
uh, there will be 30 rewards um, per event, 30 premium rewards. And if you are a subscriber, you can earn those by playing the event. You still have to progress in the event to unlock them. Um, but also for free to play players, you can collect tickets and then you can use tickets to unlock the rewards for an event. Also, if you have like, let's say, so it costs 30 tickets to unlock an event. Let's say you have 20 tickets and you're only missing 10, right? So you can buy the remaining tickets so you can buy it for cheaper than the subscription. So this way we can offer variable spending for people. Like if people can afford the entire subscription, they can get that. Or if you just want this one event, you can just buy the tickets that you need. We're also going to give bonus ticket bundles so that people, if you're like a first time buyer, you can get a ton of tickets and then you can use those tickets on 2 or 3 events even. So there's a lot of variability in the built into the subscription and ticket model. That's the mobile side, right? That's the free to play side. So for the PC side, so that's the premium game. I think of that as you've essentially, if you buy the PC version, you've bought the lifetime subscription in a way, right? In a sense. However, you still have to collect the tickets. So it's just going to change the frequency of tickets and how you get tickets. So if you are and also you'll be able to spend crystals to buy tickets on PC, which is something you won't be able to do on mobile. So that way you can fill in the tickets that you're missing for the event. You can also collect tickets while the event is active. So if you don't have all the tickets yet for the premium rewards for the event, you can collect the tickets during the event on the PC, and then you can spend those to unlock all the rewards, right? And so you'll have like 10 days between 10 days between events to collect more tickets. And then just the availability of tickets and how to get them will be different on PC. And we just have to balance it and calculate it correctly so that you on the PC can get all the tickets you need. If you play regularly, right? That you can access all the premium rewards. So you're rewarded by engagement on the PC.
Okay. And I want to ask a question about the lore. When will there be a quest about Rhoda? Or Rhoda? Raudr.
We don't have any quests planned for Router yet. So Router is going to be a character in the main storyline of Part 3. So Router is going to be with you as a companion all the way through Part 3, from the first area to the last. He will always be there. So we will perhaps do after, right? We'll perhaps do some quests that involve Router as well. But we don't have any designed yet. But
Mm,
you can probably expect that there will be maybe 1 or 2 at some point.
okay, thanks. That's all.
Yeah, thanks. And Mindstone Thief has been one of the biggest contributors to the StoneJams, mini games, helping people, all sorts of stuff. Has had some of the biggest contributions, and got one of the biggest rewards for the jam, for StoneJam 6. Even worked on some of the bounties. All right, let's. We got Super Booper, the goat. What's up, Super Booper? Do you have a question for us?
Yeah. Um, I was here to ask about the world building of
Okay.
Stone Story.
Okay, what's up?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you fine.
I was here to ask about the world building and just in general.
So, what do you want to know? What's your curiosity about the world
I,
building?
I guess while playing through the game, I just was curious about and hearing about what you're talking about with the new
Like what the inspiration
additions to
is?
I guess about also kind of I don't know I guess the characters' power levels, I guess, to say it bluntly. I don't know. That sounds
I
stupid.
think no. Well, it feels a little bit like two separate questions where power level can be part of the world design, can be part of the story, but it really is more of a gameplay thing,
Right.
right? A gameplay consideration. In terms of world building, I think of world building as an exploratory process, and I think that's true about all design. So not only game design, but every design is a metaphor could be that I use is a labyrinth. So you're lost inside a labyrinth and you're trying to find a way out. And in this case, the way out is, to answer all the questions about who are the characters, what's the story arc for part 2 and 3, does everything tie together? Are we forgetting anything? Are we forgetting Palas, Balesh, Nagaraja? Like, are we involving? Are we closing all the story arcs? Right? Um, all the NPCs that you already know. Like the labyrinth is exploratory, and you're trying to see like, okay, you go down a path, an idea path, right? And you're not sure if that's the correct path, but you have to explore it, and then you see, okay, that wasn't the correct path, and you take a step back, and then you try another path, and you keep trying, you keep searching, and you stumble upon really cool ideas. So this co-op idea with router is something that we stumbled upon on a call, right, with the writer and with our marketing person, and we were just discussing different things, and then everything stops, and we're like, stop the music, stop the music. We had this really cool idea. What if router fights alongside you? So what are the repercussions of that, right? How does that, if router is fighting with you, how does that affect level design? How does that affect boss design? Right? All these different considerations, right? So that is an example of the process. And you just apply that process to the entire thing, right? To end to end. That also applies to weapons, to user interface, to the power level of the characters. You have to think about, um, and then you have to test. You have to test: is it too powerful? Is it not powerful enough? And you just explore the labyrinth and try to find the exit.
Okay.
Yeah, thanks for the question. Big ass snail. You came a long way from the mushroom forest. What are you doing here?
Okay, so would you like consider adding like stuff that you canceled out into the game if someone like were to make it in stone script, like mounts or like the air element?
Um, it depends, and I think certain fundamental things like a rune, like you can't do that with Stone Script. You can't, modify. You would have to write a mod to the game. Once we, at some point, we might add Steam Workshop, and then that would be possible to add. We're going to start opening the code base up more to the community. It's going to be a slow process, but once we do that, then bigger changes like air runes can be added. We might add air runes. I mean, it's not out of the question, but there has to be a really good reason to do that. I don't I'm not convinced that there is a reason. Is there something specific other than air runes that you were thinking about? We do have a question here in writing. I'm going to read a question from Zuki that was actually written like 12 minutes ago. Zuki asks, faster offline timer for subscription or multiplayer for the rewards? Offline timer as a part of the subscription? That's a fair suggestion. We could potentially have some consumables. We do have we have the hourglass, so maybe that's where the hourglass comes in. It's an item that I'm hoping to release soon, and it's going to be more of a premium item that kind of speeds things up, skips certain things, like refreshes your shops, refreshes the haunted gate. So the hourglass is going to do a bunch of time related things like that. So it could be used. Maybe the hourglass shows up when you activate an offline farm, and then you can like consume 1 hourglass from the main menu to speed up one day, right? So that's the type of thing that I'm thinking about, and I think it fits in with your question here. So the hourglass might be the answer to your question, and it is coming. Already kind of got it partially designed, partially implemented. Need to finish it off. The dark one have connections with Hans. No, not really. Yeah, I guess the visual design kind of looks the same in some respects. Yeah, he's like Daddy Hans, right? Big Hans. I never thought about that. Maybe I'll ask the writer if there is a connection. Maybe we can make a connection there. If there isn't one. But yeah, we'll see. I don't know is the answer. So question number 3 by Zuki is gunpowder still an idea for Acropolis material? We have a lost item that we were thinking about, which is that would be kind of like a gun, like a blunderbuss type weapon. And gunpowder isn't necessarily something that is needed for that. Maybe we can use an existing thing like stones, right? Maybe stones can be the consumable there, so that we can leverage an existing thing.
There have been a few other written questions as well, if you'd like to take one of those. that I have written.
So Coke asks if we'll be able to control router with StoneScript. I think maybe you can swap his gear. So swap his item on the right side. That would be a fun idea. We can think about it. We can explore the labyrinth of implications of what that does. But as a premise, I think it's going to be more like the location starts. We're going to introduce a starting function for the script, and then that's where you can script what router's equipment will be, and you won't be able to change it, like reactionary, right? I don't think so, but maybe. But you won't be able to move him, no. Let's say you have no friends. I don't think that'll be a problem. The game will help you make friends. Let's just put it that way. Now, if you don't have internet, so let's say 50 years from now, the internet is no more, and but you still have Stone Story. How will you choose someone to play with at blue or red difficulty, right? Or rainbow difficulty for that matter. We'll have to figure something out for that. Maybe then you'll use router, right? If you don't have access to the internet. Router is kind of the backup plan. But I think you'll benefit more from getting a person, because router's weapon will be a short sword that is red, right? So it's like a plus 14 or something, plus 15. So a person will have lost items and other things, right, in their arsenal. Maybe even a summon, so they'll have like the fire elemental or something. And router doesn't have that stuff. So a person will be more powerful than router, a high level player. Okay, skipping along. What the heck does Hans do when the player customers in general aren't in the shop? Hans can move around, so he's not always in the shop. So he goes to other places. He has a life. He does other things. I don't know. Maybe we'll create a Hans bot, and you can talk to it, and you can ask him. I plan to add to the Discord server. We have the Initiate bot, which has been in development here and there, and maybe we'll stabilize her at some point. And then when we do, we'll have the technology that we can take to build Hans, to build Scotty, to build Desangelos, and bring in like all the NPCs here. And then you can ask Hans yourself, what does he do when he's not in the shop? And he can tell you all about his life, because I don't really know. See if we got any other questions.
There was another question about using crystals in potions.
Crystals and potions, I don't think so. Maybe crystal powder, but yeah, maybe crystal powder could be a craft, because we do want. So I do want to have, in addition to the runes and the parchments. So we'll have the parchments for the scrolls, for the magic scrolls, which will be like a new equipment slot, probably. I was thinking, okay, what's the additional ingredient that we can use? So the crystal powder fits the bill for that. And yeah, I don't think crystals themselves fit theoretically. So how big is the dark one? Like Pallas sized? I think the dark one is larger than Pallas, a little bit. Yeah, a little bit larger. So I have this idea in my mind that Pallas is like human sized, so 2 meters tall, and then everything else is just tiny. Like you're just really small. You're a little stone, right? Running around. Little stone elemental. And then, maybe the dark one is like 3 or 4 meters tall, maybe 3 meters. But I'm not sure about that. Those proportions don't have to be that way. It is an abstract game, so I don't want to set those rules necessarily. Scotty will get a new body sooner than you think. So stay tuned for Scotty's body, Azuki. So Momshi says during an Stonehead Roof Overhead quest, when the dude was going to fight the thing in the boiling room, and your option was to encourage or eviscerate, you chose eviscerate thinking it would save him, but it killed him. Okay. Yeah, all the options lead to the Stonehead getting destroyed in that quest, sadly. But it's important because of the quest that comes after, right? There's a sequel to the Roof Overhead, and it depends on that. All right, let's see. Yeah, if anyone else wants to join the stage and speak, I can get to your button pretty soon. Let me press. I have Alex Anitos. Hey, Alex joins me sometimes playing Slay the Spire. Hey, Alex. Thanks for joining the call. What's up? Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that we do have some permanent changes as a result of choices in the quest. So, for example, in Croaked, the first one, there's a path where you can take Gilbert to the waterfall. So we try to design changes that are permanent, but they don't impact, kind of like they don't create barriers for progression, right? That's the problem with with permanent changes is that they might prevent you from proceeding at a later point. So we want to make changes that kind of close. We can do things that like close a loop, close a thread in the story. So, for example, Ula and the Bronze Guardian, maybe they will reunite at some point, right? Perhaps Rauder and Hirimnir will reunite at some point. So if you do that quest and you follow that path, perhaps when you visit Rauder at the boathouse, Hirimnir will be there, chilling by the fire. What is he doing? Maybe he's, chewing on something. I don't know. Like we can do things like that, right? Sorry, what? Yeah, yeah. Cozy fire, yeah. Yep. Hmm. Maybe. I think I have other plans for the tentacle, so I want to do an underwater expansion, and I don't know if I'm actually going to do that yet, but um, I might, and then that's where that comes in more likely. All right. Thanks, Alex. See what else we got here. Import Fishing asks, what are the key crystal dusts used for? So we have a system in the works that uses the dust, but the purpose of the dust is to expand on what are the types of items that we can drop and expand the depth of crafting and things like that and give more late game depth, because right now the late game is kind of like get your enchantments to plus 21 and the game's over, right? And so while that is interesting, it's a single dimension of late game. There is a secondary, which is kind of like get your lost items to max level. But with the dust, what the dust does is it kind of creates a third dimension, right? It's not a big one, but it kind of helps us expand and give more depth to the late game, which was the whole purpose of the crystal. Now, I decided to start dropping the dust before the systems actually are in place. And that's something that we did with the cheat crystals themselves. So people who have been here since the alpha might remember that the crystals started dropping from Delta Treasures out of nowhere, and then you couldn't do anything with them. And then eventually, when we released Ula's shop, what we did is we rewarded everyone who had crystals by multiplying by 5 all the crystals that you had collected prior to the update. So we might do something like that for the dust, where we have to review the economy and decide, like, okay, the dust that people have, should we multiply it? Maybe by 5 might be too much for the dust, but maybe by like 1.5, or maybe it's fine where it is. We might have to reduce it, but I don't think so. I think we'll most likely have to increase your dust inventory, but we'll make an adjustment so that it fits, right? Because we don't know the exact balance of the system until we build the system, until we play with it. So dust will be used pretty soon in the coming updates next year sometime. Okay, what is the PC's version like? Full game, or is it short story like mobile? It's the same game, but it's not exactly the same. The systems are all slightly different, and there's like different user interface changes, and StoneScript feels very different on PC than on mobile. And some of the economies, some of the things I've been talking about with like the cost for tickets and things like that are going to be really different. Yeah, it's the same. It's the same content, it's the same items, it's the same quest, same story, but it's just slightly different structure because it's a different platform, so it can't be the same. It's impossible. So, if Palas lost his skin, where did his flesh go? Aha, you will find out in part 3, you will find out. I'm not going to spoil that. I didn't include that in my presentation because I think that's something I want to keep hidden. So you have to play to find out. Let's see. Some things are different, like music. Yeah, music is an example of something that we have to cut some of the music on mobile just so that the download time is faster, because some people, they're downloading over cellular network, and so the install size has to be smaller. Like audio is the biggest thing in our game. If we were to remove all the audio, the game would be 50 megabytes. Everything else is audio. Audio is huge. And that's actually true for most games. Audio is like the biggest thing in the entire file. Sometimes you have a lot of video or a lot of textures. If you have super high quality textures, which isn't our case, like our textures are like less than a kilobyte, I think. So are we just waiting for part 3 to come out then? No. There's more. There's in between stuff, so we're going to be dropping a lot of events before part 2 is even ready. Yeah, not even part 2. Like, we're going to drop a bunch of stuff that we've been building. Will the face taker just kill you? Yeah, I mean, if he grabs you and destroys you, yeah, you'll be unmade by the face taker. You and router. So if either you or router are grabbed and unmade by the face taker, then the quest ends. Like, you have to, try again. Just as it is with part 1. Start the location over again. So a location where you can call 4 people. I don't think we can make that work. It's going to be tough enough to just make it work with 2, because it gets very noisy with ASCII art. It gets very noisy on the screen, and to be able to read and understand what's happening. Also, performance and other problems. Just making it work with 2 people. I think so. But there's summons, right? You can summon things. You can have pets and summons that help you. Have the summoner shield that's coming up is an item that's coming up. Then you'll be able to have all 5 summons at the same time. Yeah, we got another crystal powder question. Moonbloom, flower, and petals. So similar to the crystal powder, it's the same, right? We have systems that use the moonbloom and systems that use the petals, and they are in development. So, start collecting them, and you will use them when the systems are released. And you'll have a head start on the other players. Let's see. So, Biddy45 question: the way Standard described Router's gameplay sounds like the old fairy where it follows you around and holds another item. Yeah, that's true. Are these 2 separate unlockables, or is Router the new version of the fairy? That's a great question. I think we are still going to do the fairy. How exactly that works, we're not sure. The way that the equipment works for the fairy and the way that it works for Router, in theory, is very different. So, the simulation for the fairy will work the same as if the item was equipped on you. So, if the fairy was holding the moon dial, for example, you'll get the attack speed bonus from the moon dial if you equip it on the fairy, etc. Right? If you equip the quest stone on the fairy, you'll get the armor bonuses. So the fairy is an extension of you, but Router is not. So things you equip on Router are not an extension of you. It's Router is going to use them, so you won't get any of the bonuses or any of the triggers, right? Any of the buffs or anything like that. So it's not the same. We might end up with both of them. So it's not a replacement. It's just kind of a separate or parallel thing. Probably the ferry will come first before router, the way things are shaping up. But maybe at the same time, maybe we'll build a ferry and we might release some of its crafting benefits first, and we'll hold the combat aspects of the ferry until part 3 is ready. I don't know yet how it's going to go. Let's see. Hey, speaking of, I mean, people keep asking about dating simulation things. Go for it, right? I'm supportive of that. If you want to make a mini game for Stone Story using Stone Script, build it. Let's see what you can do. Create a thread in Stone Script. Get people involved, organize, build it out, build the design, implement it. I might even help you with some of the art if you need help with some of the ASCII art. Maybe I'll jump in and give a hand. Some of the animations. Question: since router is friendly, are we not getting the mirror fight? I don't think we're gonna get the mirror fight. I think we have a different take on the mirror fight. Yeah, for those who don't know, the mirror fight was something we were discussing in a previous call a couple months ago. And it was one of the early ideas for router where you could kind of spar against him in practice. And he would be like a boss, but that turns into a friend, was the initial idea. But we changed that, so it's not going to be like that anymore. We might still do the mirror fight, but in another shape, in another location. And we'll see. We'll see. We might keep it. We'll see. Actually, there's a more than 50% probability that we'll keep that idea, but I just don't know if we'll be able to do it. So that's what I can say about that. All right, I'm looking if there's any more questions. I am falling behind on the clock because people have, after I stopped talking and showing the videos, there's been more texts, so I'm falling behind. Are there going to be more levels for the experience stone? Yeah, so we think I want to turn the experience stone into the talent stone. So you can take the XP stone, merge it with the chi stone, and build the old talent stone, right? It was the original stone that from Laos, and that would be in part 2. So when you get to Acropolis, you talk to Laos, and then you have this quest to merge the stones together. And so that will take you to the talent tree where you can progress further with the experience stone, basically. So it's a whole new talent tree where you pick like bonuses for health, bonuses for damage, attack speed bonus, things like that. Maybe some triggered abilities. So like when you're attacked, there's a 10% chance to cast a fire debuff, right? Something like that. Those types of talents. Evasion bonuses, things like that. So someone said, I have a question as a new player. I mean, just ask the question, because when I see your text, if your question is not in the text, then I don't know what to do.
I'm copying down a lot of the questions people ask in text. The ones you don't get to, I'll text to you later so you can answer it.
Yeah, do you want to do that now? Do you want to drop them, or do you want to just ask them in voice?
I can just ask them if you like.
Yeah, let's just skip straight to. So I'm gonna skip to the bottom. I'm gonna stop reading, and then Agarak will just read the questions that he's got. Shoot.
How many bosses will be added?
Oh no!
We're going to add for part 2 probably 5 bosses, and then 5 more for part 3. So that's a total of 10, and we might do more. So maybe we'll go up to 12. So it's going to be like between 10 and 12 new boss fights. Yeah, at least 8, but I'm aiming for 10, and we might overshoot and get like 11, is what I'm thinking. New bosses.
Does the Deadwood River start from the rain falling from Acropolis, then fall all the way down into the underworld where the
Yes.
houseboat is?
Yes, that's correct. So when you're ascending to Acropolis, we're going to do a cinematic. And if you're paying attention, you'll be able to see the water falling from the city. And that is going to be, yeah, that forms the river, and that goes all the way down to the underworlds. And yep, it's a whole cycle. Tar, what do you got for us? Welcome to the stage. If Tara doesn't have a question, maybe Agarak, while Tara figures out their voice. There you are.
Hello.
Hey, what's up?
So, I already asked this in like the text chat, but I was wondering, it was mentioned before that green difficulty will revolve around like animation canceling. So is there like any specifics around that? Are there like any mechanics that you guys have planned for that, or like are there any specific enemies that you guys are planning to make in regards to like balancing around animation canceling?
Yeah, I can answer that. I don't know where that idea came from. I'm not sure if we're gonna touch animation canceling at all. We might do a little bit of balancing with some of the items, but we introduced changes to StoneScript already, which make animation canceling a little bit easier. So, because when we're balancing green, we're considering that all players in green are doing animation cancel, basically.
Okay.
And
Uh,
but the gameplay mechanics of green are going to revolve around arrangements of enemies. So small arrangements, small combos of enemies. So you can imagine, for example, a giant scarab with a wasp nest behind it. Right? That's the type of situation. And we're going to craft all these unique situations for green for every area. And then you're going to go through a series of these mob encounters and that are randomly selected. And then you have the boss fight, which is the same boss fight. So we're gonna, for green, we're not gonna change the boss fights. We're just gonna make them harder. But balancing for the power level. But the real change in green is going to be these basic faux arrangements. All right, is that it?
can
Thanks for your question.
Oh,
You
I
have
was
another one?
also at. Yeah, I was going to ask. Are are you guys going to be? Are you currently working on like a fix for some of like the mobile version problems? Like some like mobile phones can't like run Stone script very well. So I was
Right.
wondering if you guys are working on a fix for that.
We are working on a fix for that, but it's a very difficult problem, and so it's been delayed, and we're not sure how long it's going to take. There's an engineer looking into it. My plan there is what I'm going to try to do is I'm going to try to bring some of the engineers from the community to see if people can make improvements to because we don't have time right now, so we can't afford to prioritize that. That's the problem. Eventually we will fix it. Eventually we will fix that problem, but I think there's a couple of different ways that we're going to do that, so we're going to try to address it at some point. If it never gets, if neither of those directions solve the problem, then I will have to personally jump in and do it myself. But when I do that, then everything else stops, right? And so all content production stops while I'm working on the Stone script machine. So I really don't want that because I'm the only one who could drive the content forward. So that's the priority. And also like really crucial systems like the new event system and things I need to drive.
Thanks for answering my question. And I love your game. Very cool. Very pog. Thank you.
Thanks, Tar. Yeah, Agarak, you got another one?
Yeah, if there, how much gameplay in time will part 2 add?
So part 2 will add not as much as part 1, but a little bit less, maybe almost equivalent to part 1. A talented player can clear their way through part 1 in 6 hours. Like a hardcore gamer who understands RPG systems already can clear it in 6 hours, and a speed runner can do it in like less than 2 hours, maybe even 1 hour. So I think for part 2 it'll be maybe 70% of that.
Follow up on that one as well. They were asking if a tutorial will be added to the game in some way.
Tutorial?
There's no context, but I'm assuming.
Not really, no.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think so. Depends. For example, when you unlock router, then we were going to do a one-step introductory UI, like, hey, you can equip things to router, and that's it. It's going to be like when necessary, right? So when you unlock the library of Acropolis, you will learn about the user interface and like how to check out the books and read the books, right? Things like that. But we're not going to really do traditional tutorial now. Hey, Vance. Vance has the speaker now. What's up, Vance? You had a question?
Hello, yes. My only question, and keep in mind, I was not here for a majority of this, so I don't know if this has already been addressed. I managed to clock semi early on that the boss of Deadwood Forest, I can't remember if it was Xylo or Peona specifically, but whenever you kill them, they would mention that you will never make it to Acropolis. And I'm wondering if that may trigger a quest whenever we do get to Acropolis. Or, like, perhaps this can be a suggestion of something to happen.
I don't think so. I think the reason I put that text there is because it serves a dual purpose. So first of all, it kind of creates a long-term goal for the player to get to Acropolis. So it's mentioned, right? And Xyloalgia comes from Acropolis. So Xyloalgia is pure negativity. So the second reason is because she is upset that you defeated her, so she's basically just shit talking, right? Uh, and doesn't believe that you can do it, because if she can't do it, then you can't do it, right? So it's just a reflection of her personality. It's intended as a personality design for the boss, for the character, more than anything. But it
Would
serves a mechanical purpose of driving the plot.
follow-up question then. After you do make it to Acropolis and perhaps trigger something in Acropolis, would they have anything to say about it if you went down to feed them again? Perhaps it could be something akin to how in a quest you're able to just talk to Palace and that's the entire quest.
We've discussed a quest where you would get part of Xyloalgia, so like you get a branch off of Xyloalgia, right? Maybe you can negotiate. Okay, I won't kill you again. Like, give me a branch so I can take it to Laos and maybe try to reunite you and Leos back together, and maybe Zilloaja. So probably Zilloaja doesn't even know that there is a white tree, which is like her equivalent up, and nobody told her, right? She dripped down and formed in the deadwood, but um, she doesn't know about Los's other half in Acropolis, right? The white tree. So I think there is a quest there to at least provide some communication between the two halves of the tree, but we're leaning towards not reunifying Los. However, the story is not fully written yet, so I don't want to, even spoil that necessarily, right? So the correct answer is we don't really know if we're going to reunify the two trees. Maybe.
Something of note is that given that Zyologia already says you'll never make it, that opens the doorway for something to happen whenever you eventually do. And this can also offer some resolution to her even saying that due to something happening once you actually get there. That offers a resolution to the player as well as just everything else. But that's the only question I had. And perhaps we
Yeah,
can
I
just
do think
discuss this
that
later.
for Zilloaja, maybe perhaps, both Zilloaja and Leos, the white tree, right? Leos, the dark tree and the white tree. Like we do want to close the arc for her, for both sides, right? And so we will do that in part 2. I just don't know how exactly we're going to do that yet. Probably as a quest. But yeah, you're right that there is something there to explore. There is.
There are several different leads leading to a quest being a very big
Mhm.
possibility. And perhaps
Yeah,
what I
yeah.
have mentioned may play a part in that. Like perhaps you are able to just talk to them and prove that you went to Acropolis, and that can just bring her ego down a bit so that she actually talks to you.
Yeah, providing some proof. That's an interesting detail. Maybe Leos gives you, a leaf or something like that that you can take down and show to Zilauja. And that can change things. I don't know. That's a good idea. I'll talk to the writer. We'll see.
This can all be discussed at a later date, but you all have a wonderful time.
Thanks. Thanks, Vance, for the question. All right, we got Asky the Vigor Warrior, who was, one of the bigger participants in the StoneJam. Do you have a question?
Will you be much slower when you enter you play through the water location or something?
I'm not sure I understand. What's your question regarding water locations? What are you wondering?
Your speed you will be much slower than usual.
Oh yeah, we probably have to do a one speed reduction, right, for water. But that remains to be seen. So we'll see how that goes, and maybe we'll just keep the locations a little shorter to balance things out. So like you move a little slower, but the total location time will kind of be similar to the other ones on average, right? It won't be super, super long. I don't know. We'll have to develop it. We'll have to see how it plays, how it feels once we build it.
Oh, that's understandable. Thanks. I like your game.
Yeah, thanks for question. Thanks for playing. See if we got any more requests to speak. Let's move to the next question, Agarak. What do you got?
Are there? Let's see here. Will the level cap increase?
Maybe. I don't know for sure. I was actually considering to lower it a bit so that you then fuse the stones and then you get the new cap, which would be higher, right? So like we take a step back in order to take 2 steps forward might be how it goes. But yeah, those are just ideas that we don't know yet. We have to develop it. So we might lower it, might increase it. I can see it working anyway. But yeah, I'm looking forward. One of the things I'm looking forward to the most is to start the art streams again, because back in the day when I was developing part 1, we didn't have this huge community. Like we have almost 30,000 people now in the server, which is awesome. And so I want to start doing the art streams again. So we're going to be doing the backgrounds, the characters, the bosses for parts 2 and 3. And so that's going to be one of the main things. I just remember that, and I wanted to mention that on this call. So we're going to start doing these calls more regularly. I might actually start doing them once per week once we get into the thick of like part 2 development next year. Might have to start doing it every week. Biddy asks, any plans to find Mr. Puff's hat? One of the things that I want to do is to give players access to modify sprites in the game with StoneScript to actually have proper access to the. And it's something that it's not such a big task. It's maybe like a few hours of development, so it's something that we could do for Mr. Puff, where you can grab a reference. So when Mr. Puff spawns, there would be a default function in the script that kind of gives you a reference to the character that got created, and then you can check the ID, and if it says Mr. Puff, you can then grab the sprite and you can load a new art file, or you can attach an extra layer on top of the art file, and then you can add the hat to Mr. Puff yourself, and that could be like a little stone script, right, that you can import. So yes, I guess. And I saw a really cool top hat. Someone was streaming yesterday, I think, or earlier today, was streaming this really cool. Was a couple of days ago, maybe. Really cool top hat. No, it was shared in the general channel, I think, or in the Brazilian channel. I don't remember anymore. It's like someone drew a really cool looking top hat in ASCII. All right, let's go to the next question.
Is the whip lost item still planned for later?
The whip. The whip was supposed to be a basic crafting item, and it kind of got dropped. It would build things like the longbow. I'm not sure. Maybe we could turn it. It makes sense. Like we could turn it into a lost item. That's a good idea. That's actually a solution for the problem, right? We have the animation already. We have the idea we want it as an item. We could introduce it as a lost item. Yeah, I like it. I like it. I'm not sure when we can do it, but it's a cool idea. So Burning Inferno asks, who's Becerra the Sage mentioned in the starting text of the Mindstone? I'll leave that as an Easter egg and you can figure it out yourself. But you misspelled it. Cirella asked, what if you make it that the amount of talent points you have is tied to your level? Wouldn't it work well? Yes, in a way. I think I would design it a little bit different. So your progression in kind of this first phase of and this is a reason for lowering the cap that I mentioned. And of course, if we do lower the cap, we could lower it as low as, so right now it's like level 60, right? We could lower it as low as 40, level 40. Players who have XP, beyond the lower cap, you'll be credited, right, with the XP that you've earned. You'll be credited with the further progression, right, on the talent tree. So we would the reasons for lowering the cap is so that new players who are coming in can access the talent system more in line with the natural progression of the game. You know, at the moment, right, when you get the talent stone, that you have the high enough level, or you're close to, like, let's say you're level 30, right? At the moment when you get the talent stone, and it says, oh, you need to get to level 40 in order to unlock the talent tree. If it said get to level 60, that might feel like too far away, right? So to explain the logic of why lowering the cap might make more sense. But then the same health points that you have, you can just get from the talent tree, right? So instead of just getting one health, one health, one health every time, you can then spend the points on whatever you want instead of health. Does that make sense? All right, let's move to the next question. Agarak.
So we had two. I know. Let me see if I can say his name right. It's Rupa Quakovizicum one something.
Right.
You've seen him around a lot. I know you know who it
Yeah.
is. He had two questions. One is about accessibility. He says the game's practically impossible to play for people with disabilities. When
Oh, I see.
fix?
Mm-hmm. Oof, that's tough. Yeah, I mean that is a difficult problem because first of all, um, it's a slow process. I don't have experience with that domain as a developer. We can take it one step at a time and kind of do it one thing at a time. My philosophy is always to make changes that have the largest impact on the most number of people um, first. So, in terms of accessibility, what does that mean? First of all, on PC, um, giving full keyboard controls is something that would impact a lot of people, would make the game a lot more comfortable for a lot of people, so people who have, movement disabilities, or who just enjoy, just feel more at home using the keyboard or a gamepad controller, right? If that's just how you're comfortable. So we would have a bigger impact. It would also unlock console porting as well as like Steam Deck, full Steam Deck controls, right? So, full keyboard, full navigation with keys is probably the number one change in terms of accessibility. But it, like, some people who are, for example, you're fully blind and you have difficulty with playing the game, that's going to be a difficult one to get to, right? Because there are all these other things that are lower hanging fruit first, that we have to solve first before we even consider that. The next thing in terms of accessibility would probably be color blindness, which affects um, roughly 6% of the population, which is huge, right? So having uh, better better controls for color blindness, better accessibility for color blindness would have a huge impact on thousands of players, both on PC and on mobile, right? So that's a big one. Um, so those are kind of the two first areas that we need to take care of, and then once those are done, then we can talk about what's next after that. But it's tough. If we could put the game on, we're going to open it more to the community to receive direct community contributions. So if people want to help program those changes into the game, at some point we will be able to accept those contributions, right? So I think that might be more of a community driven thing in the future.
He also asks about balancing green around AAC.
Mhm.
If this happens, it's unnecessarily difficult if you don't know the mechanic even exists, and there's no indication of this even being a thing.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what. we're going to be adding. So if you take players at the current power level, so someone who is completely maxed with plus 21, fully scripted with
Yes, I'm right here.
AAC. Yeah, like yourself, Agadak. You will probably already be able to get all the way to 5-star green, right? Maybe you won't be able to beat 5-star the way we're thinking about the balance, but with a few double enchants and a few gemstones, you'll clear green like really easy, right? We're not building green necessarily for your power level. Like you're at the power level where you could start working on blue already at this point, right? We're just not there yet. We can't release it yet. But what I will say also is that green is going to introduce new challenges, new types of challenge that you've never seen before in the game. And so it might still be fun, even though you're already super capable of clearing it with your current equipment. Your script is not completely ready, right, to deal with those encounters. But with a few adjustments that might be fun for you to do, you will then be able to clear green. Now, for someone who does not do AAC at all, you can just climb the ladder of double enchantments and gemstones, right? So if you power up on gemstones, you power up on double enchantments, you'll clear green without AAC, right? So there's different ways, there's different avenues of power. And this is why we're adding gemstones, right? Because it gives these different power that kind of helps balance out for different types of player as well. Now, blue and red, like especially red, absolutely you will not be without highly advanced scripting, you will not be able to clear blue and red. Right? There's just no way. We're not going to compromise at that level of difficulty. At that level of difficulty, like you have to work really hard to optimize every aspect of the combat. It's going to be super tough. And you're going to have to like have really good gemstones and double enchantments as well. Then we'll probably be adding more. So we're going to be adding like runestone potions and magic scrolls, right? So new dimensions of power as well for part 3 with red. So like on top of perfect scripting and on top of gemstones and double enchants, you're going to need the new potions and the new script and the new magic scrolls, right? To really power through. But yeah, hopefully that answers the question.
And then the last question here is he was talking about the cost of the game and how, at least in his country, there's no cost localizations.
Okay.
Seems like it's more of a statement than a question, but how would you respond to that?
Well, I guess it is. There's a question in there. Because we're a small team, it's very difficult to do cost localization, especially now where there's a lot of inflation in a lot of countries. And there's also a lot of cheating, so people can just change their region and uh, get stuff really cheap. Like it's tough, right? So if we had more time, we could probably find a solution for that. However, it's difficult for us to do that. Perhaps we'll get there, right? I would like to get there. I would like to do that, but it's hard for us. It's hard for me to do that right now. We have all these other priorities of just building content, Hey, Sicker7.
Hi, it's
What's
Psyker.
Psyker,
Yeah,
sorry.
so I had 2 questions, one about Stone Script and one about how attacks might work. Are there any, and I came in a little late, so I apologize if this is a repeat, but are there any upcoming changes to additions to Stone Script, such as maybe switch statements?
No, we're not planning any language features like that, but we might add, like I mentioned, we might add some more built-in events, sort of
Okay.
like location started. So instead of saying if location dot begin, you would instead have a function that is like location begin function. That's the only structural change that we're planning. With
Okay.
the rewrite of the machine, we might have to do some language changes for the performance. I don't know.
My second question is, will there be a way to target specific foes? Like, for instance, with Mr. Puff, he's behind the giant snail, and it can be frustrating trying to get through that shield. Will there be a way to target specific enemies that are behind other enemies?
Hmm. Hmm. With like a ranged item, for example.
I'm not exactly sure. Yeah, probably with a ranged item, but like a stone script function or maybe
Mhm.
some special item.
We
Not
could do
sure.
that with a lost item. So, for example, the what's it called? The gun, right? That we're planning to add. We could add a special script function for that, right? Where when you activate the when you activate the item, you can pass an extra parameter saying, the ID of the enemy or the name of the enemy, something like that. It's possible.
Thanks. That's all I wanted to know. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, that's a good idea. It's been suggested before, and it kind of doesn't fit the style of the game, but maybe later on, with new items or something like that, it could work. It could definitely work.
All right.
Thanks. Thanks for the question. All right. What's the next question, Agarak?
Let's see here. That one. Speaking of double enchantments, will the equipment with only 2 options for enchantments be just completely unable to reroll, or will there be more potential bonuses?
Right. I think we hadn't considered that. Uh, so all weapons will have at least, or equipment for that matter, will have at least 2 enchantable stats, right? And I think that's exactly right. Like if that's all it has, then there is no reroll, right? Reroll is just disabled.
Along with that, there was another question about double enchantments. Will the second enchantment be weaker than the first, or will they be able to be brought up to the same level?
Yeah, you can bring them up to the same level. So you just basically take a rainbow item, any rainbow item, plus 16 or higher, and you can mutate it to have a second enchantment on it. So it'll become like plus 16 plus 1. And then that'll land on a random stat. And then when you're on the Triskelion, you choose which enchantment you want to do. You want to level up. So then you can just bring it up to, plus 16, right? Plus 21, both of them. So you can choose which one you want to level up separately.
So then a
It'll get
question I
switched on
actually
the
have then
Triskelion.
is when you re-roll it, is it randomizing both, or is it another
That's not
selectable?
decided yet. Yeah, I think it might just swap them around, both of them. I'm not sure. Make it really tough to reroll, right? Like,
My opinion would be do it because it's end game tier stuff. I mean, they're gonna have
Mhm.
the money to roll it as many times as they need.
Yeah,
My opinion.
yeah. We could keep the price the same. So let's say that you're paying for the reroll of a plus 21. If you have plus 21, we don't have to double the cost of the reroll. We can just keep it the same so it'll be like the cost of the highest
Yeah,
enchantment that
I
you
think
have.
that sounds good. Just my personal opinion.
Okay. Yeah, we could re-roll it. Then in the first case of like a repeater that only has 2 things that can be enchanted, it would just swap them, right?
Yep, exactly. That's
So
what I
it's
thought.
predictable. Hey, Bitty Bulb, what's your question, buddy? Bitty Bobby.
Okay, so earlier I was thinking like when you fuse the like keystone and the experience stone, will you be able to like not collect any more key?
No, I mean it'll continue working the same. Yeah, I wouldn't change the key or the experience necessarily. You continue gaining experience and you continue gaining key, but then it'll unlock this whole new thing. We don't have to change them necessarily. Maybe. Maybe. I don't know. All right, next question.
There was a question about data loss, how Google Play
Mm.
can sometimes act kind of funny.
Mhm.
And they weren't sure if there were any plans. Like, obviously, PC has local backups with historic
Yeah.
backups.
Well, there are plans, definitely. For now, I do encourage everyone, and if you're listening to this, make a backup manually of your save, right? Always do that periodically, once a week, every other week, right? So it would be good to do a backup when there's an update, something like that. Before they update, make a backup. But I do have, a system that is partially implemented already, and we do have to complete that. That is kind of a medium priority that will allow backups on mobile. Yes, it's just a matter of time. So which we we don't have much of, but we'll get that in. We might need to create an account for you. So like this is exploratory at this point, but I might need to get like an email or something like that, and then so you type that in, and then it'll tie that to your data. That way you can always retrieve it, right, regardless of what happens to your phone. Does that make sense? Then you can just contact me through that email, just say, hey, I lost my data. But if you've registered with your email, then I can just go to the database and fetch it. Or we can create a tool inside the game that does that for you, right? Create a login or something.
There was another question about leaderboards. What stats did you end up choosing for leaderboards, or is that still not quite decided yet?
It's not exactly decided because we're going to do event leaderboards first, so it's not that important to resolve what's going to be done for locations. But I'm currently leaning towards what was in the discussion, what was in the thread. Like we're going to do time, of course. Time is the main thing, but then health gained and or lost, right? Will be a second dimension, and then the third dimension will probably be damage per second. Makes the most sense, and then we'll have some kind of heuristic around how damage per second is calculated. That's the most complicated one because I don't want the damage per second to just be a direct correlation with the time. Because the amount of damage you deal in a level is going to be roughly the same. It's going to average out to be about the same. Like as a player, you can't really, yeah, perhaps you can influence your damage to go up a bit. If you build a certain way, you can push your total damage to be a little bit higher. But I think it's going to be a little fuzzier, right? If you just take the total damage you do in a level divided by the total time, there's going to be a super strong correlation between your time metric and your damage metric. So the damage is really or the damage per second is really the metric that is the most difficult to design, because I would prefer if it were more decoupled from the time dimension, right? So we have 3 separate dimensions that you can optimize for, and so I have some ideas of how to do that, but it needs experimenting. I think that's the one that has the most, can be changed the most.
This is an interesting question. If we do any character crossover StoneJam scripts in the future, would there be any problems about using or publishing another company's IP?
Yeah, we're just gonna follow the same copyright rules that are standard in the software industry, right? So for anyone who's not familiar with that, the way it works is that a platform, so we become a platform at that point. If you can just submit your content without review, um, then we're not responsible for your infringement, not directly responsible for your infringement on third-party copyright. If there is a takedown request made, so we have to provide a channel for which third parties can request takedown of content. So if you make a Mario game inside of StoneScript and Nintendo sends us a takedown request, we'll have to take down your Mario game. That's the law. But it depends, right? So if it's considered transformative art, then we can argue that no, we're not going to take it down. It's transformative. But yeah, like we don't want to necessarily go to court against Nintendo. But
Oh, you could take them.
we could make an argument, right? It might be good for publicity, but we would have to really believe that it is transformative art. Depends on what you do, right? It depends completely on how it's done. So because of the nature of ASCII art as a very unique look and feel, I think that most of that stuff will be safe, right? So if you're doing a reference, something looks like or is inspired by existing IP, that's probably okay. It's probably safe. But I think actually, in terms of regulation, I'm not even allowed to comment on my opinion of. So you can't ask me like, do you think I'm infringing? I can't answer that because it makes me liable.
I think we have 2 more people with their hand raised.
Oh yeah. Who we got? Can I see the list anywhere?
Yeah, if you click
Oh
the
yeah,
little
there it
hand in the
is.
top right, Lucius and
Oh yeah,
Lil Stink.
Lucius VS was one of our contributors to the jam. Hey, Lucius VS. And then we've got Little Stinky as well. Hey, what's up, Lucius?
That Little Stink 3.
Yeah.
Hello? You hear me?
Yeah.
Alright, like you just mentioning that, like I made the beheaded skin, like imagine this motion twin just trying to sue me because I made that skin, like.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway. My question is about, I'm very curious about the geography of the Dark World. Like, would I'm sorry. Will we able to get a map someday? Not necessarily in game or even in ASCII art. Just like an overworld map of the entire Dark World.
Yeah, I think if we have an artist at some point who is available, it would be really nice to do that. It's a good idea. But basically, to describe it is like Acropolis sits on top of the stream. It's like this green straight line, straight up, basically. And then there's the surface area, rock plateau right below it. And then you just go down the levels, right? You have Deadwood below the rock plateau. Below that, you have the Caves of Fear, and the boiling mine is next to Deadwood. On the other side of the river, so going up again, you have the icy ridge and the temple. Going up the mountain range, and if you go back and you go below the caves, so you have below the caves you have mushroom forest um, and then the haunted halls, kind of on the same level. If you go down the waterfall, you end up in the underworld. So in the underworld, you have kind of everything on the same level, more or less. Still deciding if the area where the dark one is below the underworld or on the same level as the other things. We're not sure yet about that. If it's a restricted area, like beyond some kind of barrier, or if the barrier is vertical. So, but basically at the base of the world is the giant crystal, so the world fountain, and then the light shines through the crystal from below, and that's what powers the world. And then there's the moons as well. So the moons are really important aspect in the back. But like, do we orbit the moon, or does the moon orbit us? That's a great question. I don't know. Maybe
All
we'll
right,
figure that out at some point.
and the last thing. Well, I'm from Argentina, and recently, what?
Yeah, that's awesome. Lots of Argentina members.
Yeah, and you know, Steam recently has made an update for a lot of countries to switch their prices to dollars.
Right.
So, because of the prices and because of taxes, excessive taxes, we pretty much have to pay double for every thing that we have to buy on Steam. So basically, instead of paying $25, we have to pay $50, which I would say, an excessive amount of money for a video game. So I don't know really how much power you have over the prices. Now, of course, people can still play on mobile for free, but for PC players, like I would say that most people just have gone, like they're not using Steam anymore.
Yeah, it's the
So I don't
inflation
know.
as well, because game teams just can't keep up with like hyperinflation scenarios, right? Like there's 200 countries to take care of, and we just can't handle it. We can do exceptions, but it might be unfair as well. Like if we're gonna do it, we have to do it for all the countries, or at least kind of all the medium sized ones at least, right? So it's kind of a difficult problem for us. I could probably spend a few days, right, solving that problem, but then that's a few days that are taken away from other aspects of development. So yeah, it kind of
Yes, of
sucks.
course,
Yeah,
I understand.
kind of
No, I
sucks.
mean I think that's why Steam actually made those changes, so they would just use one currency instead of every developer having to do research about each currency.
Yeah, it makes our life a little bit easier, but kind of sucks for the players.
Yeah. So anyway, that's what I have to say. I really love the game. I have almost put 300 hours into it,
Awesome.
and I'm really excited for what it comes next for the game. Like I've been playing for a year. Like in November, it was a year. So it's awesome. Like I really love it.
That's so cool. Yeah, there's gonna be content drops coming soon. We're gonna be showing off our new system in the winter event, so just in a few weeks, and then after that's our quest drop. in January 11. So back to back, we're gonna get events starting with December 22nd.
Yeah, that's awesome. So keep it up, like all of you.
All right.
You're doing something amazing.
Thanks, Lucius. Let's bring on board Lil Stinky. Little Stink 33. What's up?
Hello. I was just wondering, I saw Peter Griffin on Fortnite, and I was wondering if you guys would also be open to collabs, maybe with other like indie developers. Why are you laughing at me? Maybe with other indie developers like the makers of Among Us, like Innersloth.
Yeah, we're open to collaborations. Yeah, I mean, when you have a larger development apparatus, it becomes a little easier because those types of deals take a lot of time. You have to talk to them, you have to get into a ton of meetings, and you have to discuss how it's going to be done and who's going to pay for that. Like when you're licensing something like that. If we're doing it with a pure game, so a game that is kind of the same size as us, we can do a trade, right? Like we'll include your character. You can use something from our game if you want to, right? Um, we can do a pure exchange for certain projects. So if something like that were, if someone reached out like from another game and wanted to do something like that, I'd be down. Yeah, well, we would do it. But something like Peter Griffin, we would have to initiate that. We would have to go after whoever owns that IP, like Warner Brothers or whatever, and talk to them and go through the whole corporate uh, discussion. And I've done some stuff like that in actually I worked with the a long time ago. I worked with the American Dad IP and I did a game for American Dad. And that one actually went really well. That collaboration went really well. But some others have gone really poorly with some IP holders. It's a lot more stressful. And so, we have to ask ourselves, what's the trade-off, right? What's the cost benefit of doing that for us? And it's a difficult area to develop. I would rather focus on our limited bandwidth. It's more valuable for us to develop out our game. But if someone approached me, yeah, I'd be open to considering it, to doing it.
All right, sick. Thanks. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thanks for the question. All right, is that it? Are we done? Any more questions? Final questions?
Is the Dark World spherical, or is it kind of like a floating island built around the world crystal, or something else entirely?
It's more of a
Like a
it's more of a
calzone?
cone. Calzone. Nice. No, it's more of a cone shaped. Yeah, or cylindrical or cone. It's not very big, actually.
It's a little cone.
Yeah, it's not huge.
That's what she said.
Oh god. I wonder how many kilometers tall it is. I've never calculated that. How many kilometers high or wide is the world? Maybe I'll do that at some point. All right. That was Fro's question. We got CloudX wants to join. Hey, Krupa.
I just had like additional question, just going off of the previous.
Yeah.
So maybe it's not planned right now, but you're open to like doing like indie collaborations.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I mean, if it depends on the game, and then we just get in a meeting with the devs and talk about it. Yeah, I reached out to one team, but they weren't interested, and I just don't have time to be doing that work. That's like a full-time job almost, to be going after that stuff. And then we don't really have the pipeline to develop that content so quickly, right? So we kind of have our own content that's planned, and then if there's a partnership like that, we could see where we fit it in, but we can't do too many. So we have to be selective also a little bit. It'll be really interesting. Yeah. Do you have any specific ones in mind?
Oh yeah, I was just like had like maybe Undertale kind of has a similar design style, and like Hollow Knight or something like that. Or
yeah, Undertale does have a really similar style. Yeah, if anybody knows them, and tell them about us, and yeah, we're open. I actually don't know the devs from Undertale. Never met them.
thank you, I appreciate your game.
Thank you. Thanks for playing. Hey, Alex. Alex is back. What's up, Alex? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Um, we're always polishing the early game. Like recently, I've done some, small changes to the first-time user experience. It's a really important area to always keep polishing the first-time user experience. We might do like one of the possibilities is that if we do the water expansion, we could do it as a holistic thing where we actually we take part 1, 2, and 3, and we actually change it. So that part 1 would have a water area, so you could go like into the Deadwood River would be part of the progression for part 1. That's one of the things that might do. That would be a more substantial change. Other than that, I don't think so. We're doing quest resequencing. So in the last update, we had Ascension move down to number 4, I believe, and that's changes because of part 2. And so yeah, we're kind of restructuring some of the content. We could do some shop changes, perhaps, especially with some of the new crafting systems, like maybe tickets. You could start buying tickets in Ula's shop, things like that. You know what I mean? Yeah, we'll always be reevaluating opportunities to make part 1 better. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's true. Thanks, man. Mush22 asks if I've worked on what have I worked on before Stone Story. I have actually worked on a ton of games. I've been in the games industry for almost 20 years now. I will be completing 20 years in August by my professional game developer anniversary, August 4th. And in the 20 years, I have published 20 games. So sadly, most of those are not playable anymore because of how digital distribution, changed things. And like you distribute on a platform, and like um, actually, the companies don't even exist anymore, right? Where I made those games, and like I can't, legally, I can't keep the source code. So like I'm not responsible for maintaining the game after I leave the studio, right? So that's kind of sad. But and that's one of the reasons why I wanted to build Stone Story. I wanted to build it myself and independent, so that I can make it. I can be responsible for the source code, and when I'm done producing the project, I will then open up the project to be open source, so that that problem can't happen again, right? Unfortunately, we are still dependent on Unity existing, right? So maybe there will be some effort to maintain like a legacy Unity build. We're building this with Unity 2021. And so, maybe 50 years from now, Unity will be kaput. And so it will be up to the community to keep like either port the code base over to another engine or rewrite it without Unity, or maintain a viable Unity build, Unity editor that is, where the game can continue to be maintained and republished on new platforms and things like that, right? Recompiled and things like that. So um, I plan to make more games. After this, I have plans for at least 3 more games that I've just been pushing off because Stone Story has been successful enough that has justified me delaying my plans. And I think one of my previous games, Mountain Goat Mountain, can still be downloaded from archives, from APK archives. You can find it, Mountain Goat. Other than that, there is Loot MMO can be playable on Core. I don't think any other there is my Pyramid Builder. So Pyramid Builder can be downloaded on itch.io, and those are the only ones that are playable. Yeah, perhaps at some point people will make conversion tools that can convert projects from Unity to Godot, and if that's good enough, then it could work. We could do that. Maybe that's the way forward, right? Like if someone makes a Godot converter, we could consider that. We can evaluate it. But for now, we are with Unity for the foreseeable future, and we're not really troubled by the business model change that they've done. Hey, Iadis, thanks for sharing the Pyramid Builder link. Yeah, so one of the things I would like to do is to complete Pyramid Builder. I built that for a game jam. I built it I think it took me 60 hours to build it, 64 hours, something like that. And so to have different projects, not just the main, not just the vanilla pyramid, but have different temples and different things like that you can build with the same engine, and have a little storyline that kind of ties it together. Like, why are you building, right? Different upgrades as well, not just the boats and the houses, and the fields, but have a couple of more things that you can buy. Excuse me. Yeah. Plans like that. I have a puzzle game I want to build. I have a roguelike that is fully designed and like partially implemented that I really want to build, but it's so difficult to get time for it, for both of those. What else I got? I got a card battler game that has been on my mind, that I really want to do. I think the puzzle game might be next, but I'm not sure. Oh, Biddy45 drew a sketch of the the Dark World. That's cool. I think the proportions are off, right? Because I think Acropolis is going to be a lot smaller in proportion to the mountains and stuff. Maybe about a third of that size. but that's pretty good. Yeah, the water dripping down. That's such a cool drawing. I'm gonna save that in the fan art. I have a fan art folder here. I'm saving it. Thanks. Where are you, fan art folder? There you are. I'm gonna call this The Dark World by Biddy. That's awesome. Oh, I do have a different game mode inside of Stone Story that I would like to build. It's a roguelike game mode. Kind of like you go to the locations, similar to Slay the Spire in some respects, where you go down the locations and you have a map, you choose which location you want to go to, and then you earn these relics, and the relics modify and we can use the same relics from the reliquary that we're going to build for part 3. I'm going to build a reliquary, and we could use the same relics there. Maybe we can use some of the crafting things like gemstone icons and moonbloom and things like that as relics that are only in this special game mode. So it's kind of like an infinite dungeon. Kind of see how far you can get. So the puzzle game, I don't want to talk about the puzzle game. Kind of a stealth project. But what I can tell you is that I designed it when I was really sick. So I had a flu many years ago. It was around 2015, 2016. It was during, I was working on Mountain Go Mountain. I was already working on Stone Story. I was working on Stone Story and Mountain Goat at the same time. And then I got really sick and I couldn't even get out of bed. But I had this idea for this puzzle game. And so I was kind of like laying in bed with the laptop and I coded this puzzle game in 2 days. And it was an idea that was kind of already on my mind for a long time, but then I got inspiration for how it would actually be. And I built a prototype. I built a playable with 54 levels, I think. And so I just have to find an artist that can do the art for it. That's like one of the main problems. I have to go artist hunting, find the right person, and then start building the game. It's actually kind of an easy project, to be honest. Probably the easiest project, which is why I said it might be the next one, just because it's really easy. Are there any other questions that I might have skipped? Yeah, don't worry about repeating a question. If I didn't answer, you can repeat it.
I think that's about it.
Yeah, that's it then. That was an awesome call. I'm gonna go. I gotta get some dinner, and then come back work on the game a little bit. I'm going to do some testing on the subscription. I need to make a build, put it on my phone, test the subscription, and oh, there's a bug in the winter event. So one of the objectives in the winter event is to use a cosmetic while defeating a boss. So using like the wave scarf, or so like winter themed cosmetics, right? So we have so I guess this is a call out. If anybody wants to make a winter themed pet in the next week, especially if you already have a license agreement from StoneJam, then I would include that in the event. Okay. But the deadline for that is the 15th or 16th. If you get it in by the 16th. If not, I'll, no big deal. But I just wanted to mention it because we have the winter event and we don't have any winter themed pets. So that would be nice to have, because we can use that same component, which is to beat a boss while using this cosmetic. And so that objective is actually broken. Dark, who was testing the event, couldn't complete that objective. So I'll be working on that probably tonight or tomorrow or something like that, fixing that. A mini Hrimnir, good luck. Oh man. I would recommend do not do an ice elemental because the ice elemental is going to already be summoned by the ice talismans. So probably don't do that one. Which might be kind of an obvious thing to choose, but
A snowball that gets bigger as you walk and melts as you stand still.
yeah, snowman would be nice. Yeah, we're probably going to insert the ice council member, the council member of ice is probably going to be an NPC in Acropolis. We're thinking it's a judge. Is kind of the first character design that we have. It's not complete yet. And then there's going to be a quest for that, and you get the talisman from that. We don't know if that's the only talisman you're going to get from Acropolis. It might be the only one. And then if it is, the remaining two will be in the Underworld. Or maybe we reserve the fifth one for part 4. Who knows? But we're planning to do so the ether one. So the next talisman is ready to go. Like it's fully implemented, and all the R&D book quests are all done. Basically, we just have to ship it. So that's going to be part of the content pipeline coming out next year. Is the ether talisman? It's one of the next things in the chain. Maybe it'll come around April or something like that because there's a ton of content. There's a ton of events back to back. So it might be April when the ether talisman drops. We'll see. End of April, maybe. So the third one will be in Acropolis. Maybe we'll introduce the Summoner's Shield at that point as well in another quest. So you can have all three elementals together. Yeah, Augie is coming in the Crusader quest. So the Crusader Shield has a quest that comes with it. It's already done as well. And Augie is a character in that one. Now, for Head Over Heels, you do go to the Skeleton Bone, so the Bone Factory, but Augie is not there. Augie is busy with something. So someone else is looking over the Bone Treasure Factory. Summoner Shield. Yeah, the Summoner Shield is because with the talismans, you can only have one summon at a time. So you have the Cinder Wisp right now, and you have the Void Weaver. Who's the next one? If you summon the Void Weaver, the Cinder Wisp unsummons. You can only keep one summon at a time. That's like a resource in the game, is your summon count. And with the Summoner Shield, while that's equipped, you can increase your number of summons. And it's going to be the only way to increase it. Maybe in the future if we have more than 5. So we're only planning 5, and then the shield will allow you to get up to 5. Oh, nice bunny. Cool. Now it just needs to be animated. Hop, hop, hop. Does the bunny have a little scarf as well? It's a winter bunny. You could fit an underscore on the left, to the left of the eye. That is a separate color. It would be like red or something. And then behind the head, you can put like a little wavy glyphs and have it be a little scarf that moves up and down a bit. I'm feature creeping the idea. Legs turkey. Oh, the legs turkey we should use for the fall. For the fall event. Yeah. Huh. Yeah, for the November event. Which I think is the Bronze Guardian one with the fishbowl, head.
That sounds right.
Yeah. All right, you're casual gamer. See ya. Yeah, Poison Talisman. Yep. I've wanted to do the talismans for a long time. Long time. They're supposed to be equipable on the ferry as well. So they've been in the design for ages, for years. And we were just finally getting around to doing them. So we got the fire one out. And we got the ether one fully implemented, ready to go. Yeah, we could do a quest with the Acronian cultist. That's a good idea, Biddy. Let me write that down. Because we could maybe deliver the talisman or something. Maybe we trade. Like we take the poison talisman and we give him something else. Maybe we can help him reconnect with Leos, right? There's some kind of this quest for the poison talisman. It could be something that kind of connects all three parts of the game together, like part one with Fael, part 2 with Leos, and then part 3 something in the Underworld. Yeah, it's a kind of a seed of an idea that we can work with. All right, I'm gonna get going. I'm starving, and my dog has to eat as well. All right, see y'all later. Have a good day. Have a good night.